Survivor's ready!
Direct from Hobart, it's time for you to hear those so-called experts from Survivor Oz talk about another reality show, despite the fact they always said they wouldn't ever talk about Survivor. It's The Amazing Race Oz, and here's your host,
Colin Hilding.
Hello and welcome back to The Amazing Race Oz. Yes, that's right. The Amazing Race Oz is still here. It is still a thing. It is still your second favorite show with Oz in the title, behind Double Oz 7, I guess, or maybe third favorite behind your Oz Vision, but this has to be better than Survivor Oz at this point. I am Colin again, hosting, and if you're wondering where we've been for the last couple weeks, well, then you probably didn't listen to our last episode, because as we said at the beginning of the season, due to some time restrictions this year and having a lot to cover, and especially with Ben still on hiatus from the Survivor show, we just don't have enough time to cover Amazing Race every single week, but we did promise we'd be back to at least do a mid-season recap, which is what we're here to do. We're here to talk about the Amazing Race up until now, outside of the premiere, which we already covered, and hopefully you'll hear from us again before the end of the season. But if you're upset that you wanted more Amazing Race at this point, we'll just say blame Noah. We don't want to blame Ben for everything, so blame Noah, who's probably not even watching this season still, our loyal Amazing Race host. I guess in tradition of this season, going along with the theme, let's just change blame Noah to hashtag Blowa. So if we want to get that trending before the end of the season, that's hashtag BLOAH, hashtag Blowa. Thank you for joining us for the Ozlists who are so here appearing on this show. We'll start off with the man who cannot figure out his recording software. So we're lucky that we still have a back up here. Anthony Rossi, you're back on The Amazing Race. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for shaming me.
I just shamed Noah, hashtag Blowa. I didn't do hashtag Blanthony or anything. Or would you rather hashtag Blrossi or Blossy?
No.
No, just no hashtag. All right. And we switched up the order on the Ozlet episode last week, so let's put him back where he belongs, saving the best for last. Jared Lubick, you're here with us again.
It's good to be back. It feels like we've almost been renewed for another season. It was a bit touch and go there, but the public has demanded that we come back. So
they demanded we come back with a reduced episode order here. But,
yeah,
we'll make the best of it. So we are here to talk about The Amazing Race episodes. We're mid-season point, so episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we're officially at the halfway point here of the season. After it was off for a few weeks, so we're going to be struggling to remember some of these things, but we'll do our best here. And when we last left The Amazing Race, we were in Mexico, and episode 2, that was the elimination of Marty and Hagen. Remember Marty and Hagen? Anybody?
All I know is Noah didn't put them last in the mid-season rankings.
Yeah, our after episode 2 predict the elimination order, in which Noah ranked them somewhere in the middle, which just shows how much he's watching the show. But we'll move on from Marty and Hagen, and we did move on from Mexico to Colombia. And the first thing I just want to say is we're going to cover a couple of legs here, and I'm loving the locations that we have this season. The locations are really making it for me, even some of the episodes that aren't the best. And Colombia is definitely one of them. There's a lot of fun stuff going on in here. We had Blair on the bus, or I guess the entire bus challenge, but let's say Blair was the star, the Besos for Pesos, looking for kisses for money. She's basically prostituting herself on a bus, and her dad was all for it. That was unusual. We had the purses, when they were looking for the purses, roaming around the streets of Colombia, and or Cartagena. We also saw Miss Cartagena, the beauty pageant winner or whatever it was. And I think the real star of this episode was Darius and Cameron. Let's be honest. Have we ever seen a team standing next to the thing they're looking for saying, where is this? Let's talk a little bit about Colombia as a leg. Rossi, you want to go first?
I
pretty standard, but it was action packed. I felt like it seemed like it was going to be kind of and there goes. I think it was Scott and Blair who were last at that point, and then they're going to go. What a shame.
Mm-hmm.
And then the brother spends hours, trying to find the designer, and it was enjoyable, pretty humorous as well.
Jared, did you like Columbia as a leg?
Yeah, I think Columbia is potentially my favorite leg of the season so far. I just thought, despite kind of having the detours being really lopsided, with whatever the other throwing stones at gunpowder or whatever was, I just thought the editing was really good. You had my random favorite team, Zach and Rachel, look like they could be in trouble after they mixed up with the money and got like $100 instead of $1,000 that they were meant to earn. And then you had that whole slip up at the roadblock with Darius and Cameron, but then Zach and Rachel get lost on the way to the pit stop, and everything's kind of just going back and forth. You have Scott and Blair in there near the back of the pack as usual. I just had no idea who was going to go home this episode, and I agree. It just had lots of kind of funny moments. One of my favorites was when they were doing the bag roadblock, and Dana's trying to kind of look at this lady's bags that she's got out there on display, and she's trying not to step on them, but she's really kind of in amongst all this lady's wares, and you can just tell this lady, the look that she gives, she is so annoyed. She's thinking, I'm going to try and sell this tomorrow, and you're stepping on all my necklaces and all my bags, and can you just get lost right now? So I thought that was a great moment.
We have these episodes, I think it was in season 26, or maybe it was 27, when they were looking through a store and just rummaging through somebody's purse trying to look for their clue. And you have to think that these people are aware, there's a race going on, just let them do their thing. I don't know if it was the same lady you're talking about, but the one that they were supposed to get their clue from looked like the snottiest woman I have ever seen. Like, she just did not want to be there. Is that the same one that you were talking about?
I think this was because this was like a stall like owner, and she was just more so like she was like eyeing daggers at Dana. But I know what you mean. Like the lady who they like got their clue off at the end. Yeah, she just looked like she could not be bothered and thought she was kind of above the whole thing.
Yeah, she was probably thrown in there at the last minute, in all fairness. But it didn't help that this went on forever. I'm a big fan of the legs that just take a lot longer than they should have. You know, if we're compared to Survivor, you look at the Palau finale, where the challenge just went like twice as long as they expected, and they're pretty much scrambling. And when it gets this dark, I mean, there was no way they were going to be able to find these. So you have to understand the teams were going to be struggling looking for these matching purses. They have to be very precise. But I love those legs where it just, everything goes wrong, and you know that there's no way they intended it to go that late. But that lady looked upset, you know, at the beginning of the challenge when it was 5 minutes in. By the end of it, she was just like, get on with it, people. Like, she was probably ready to scream the clues at them and, you know, say, I have it, I have it. Just seeing these teams standing right next to her and going back and forth and not getting it, hilarious. The bus challenge, the strategy that Blair had, that definitely made the episode for me. That was my other favorite part. I don't know if it would have worked for many of the other teams. I don't know if Brody and Kurt were going to be able to do that, or Tyler and Corey. Scott probably could have tried. I mean, they would have done a little bit quicker maybe if Scott was giving out to the old ladies there. I don't know, but let's talk really quickly about Darius and Cameron. When we finished the episode 1 and 2, we mentioned, you know, that they were just a little bit too laid back, and they made the exact same mistake here again. So, final thoughts on Darius and Cameron. Rossi?
Yeah, they weren't that good.
That's a nice way to put it.
I mean, I could put it worse if you'd like, but I won't. Yeah, they were just not good. They're like, well, we have physical strength, so we'll get through it, and then they just didn't think. They just forgot that thinking was a portion of the game, and it wasn't too sad to see him go.
Jared, any final thoughts on Darius and Cameron?
Not really. I think it was their time to go. I think the only thing that would have made it better was if one of the locals did know who the actual designer of the bag was, and they went to a completely different, just showed up at some lady's house and then kind of handed the bags over to her and said, "Do you have our clue?"
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just a total like disaster, that challenge, and you knew that even if they had made it through like this leg, that a similar thing would happen down the road somewhere. So it was probably good for them to go out early.
Yeah, I really got a big laugh out of their final words, or they were saying, you know, I actually put the quote down here because it made me laugh hard enough. "We gave it all we had. The last couple of legs, we made some mistakes." The last couple of legs, as in all 3 of the only legs we've had so far? Oh, I can't believe these guys. But they're gone, and like you said, it's time for them to go. If they had gone in episode 2, I wouldn't have been upset either. I don't know, Marty and Hagen may have had more to give the race than they did. They just didn't seem to have any energy for this. So we move on from there to Switzerland. Again, another good location. So this is episode 4 now, and this is the birth of hashtag Bloaty, which this will not be the last time we hear hashtag Bloaty. I think we need a hashtag Bloaty count on this season, because it's going to hit triple digits by the time it's over. So before we even talk about the episode, do we like that after 3 seasons of trying now for this love connection, Phil finally has his hashtag Bloaty? Rossi?
I don't even know if he wanted hashtag Bloaty, but peggers can't be choosers, I guess. Yeah, it's weird that it was forced on the one season, didn't work, and then when they don't force it, it works. It was weird to see them pair up. I never kind of expected it. That big preview weeks back was strange. Yeah, but I'm in favor for it. I want to see Bloaty continue. That's so awkward to say.
You want to see it trending?
Yeah, get it trending, I guess.
Yeah, I was looking up some hashtag Bloaty tweets before we did this episode. Nothing really that noteworthy. It's just all the exact same thing. But I'm sure that Tyler and Corey are very happy that Bloaty is a thing now. Jared, how do you like Bloaty as a couple?
I think it's perfect. Surely this is kind of the crossover team that makes it into the next All-Star season. I just hope that the romance lives on. We get the Bloaty wedding special. Bloaty having their first kid hits the tabloids, and it just takes off. We can get the TMZ reporters back to follow that up.
We can eventually have the E-Spinosh keeping up with the Bloaties, or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bloaty will be back before the end of the season, or before the end of this recap. So this episode in Switzerland, again, location totally made it. Not that I think the challenges were anything noteworthy, but the challenges we did have, the bench challenge, which I thought was pretty entertaining. Basically, they have the longest bench in the world, I guess it was, and you have to sit there and stretch out with a newspaper. Like, it was the most complex thing ever. And this is, of course, one of those where people are going to end up teaming up because nobody can just get this on their own. It was so random, but it was kind of fun to watch these teams just struggle and be off by 30 or be off by 10 and just not even be getting it. There also was the UN flag challenge, which, again, this is just teams working together. I feel like this was a complaint we had on past seasons with teams working together. So while we talk about this episode, let's also get the opinion on whether or not teams working together is a good thing for the race or a bad thing for the race. We even had everybody hiding from the models at the end. That was really good. Everybody needed the models. Like, this is what happens when you have a challenge, and we see it again in the final episode, in the Armenia one, where there's almost strategy coming in. It's not that you want to sabotage a team, but you know you only have one chance at surviving, and it really was to just make sure the models didn't get it. So everybody was working together but the models. So let's cover the Switzerland episode. We have the benches, we have the UN flags, we have the models. Rossi, what are your feelings on Switzerland?
One of my favorite episodes so far that we've seen. I think it was the most interesting, especially at the end with those the transportation kind of things, when there were a few teams ahead, but then everyone else caught up except the models, and then were they going to catch a train? Oh, no, they're not, because they're walking. And yeah, it was really good. The challenges were interesting. That bench was so weird, but it challenged every team. Like no one got it right away, and the harder one on the offset, the Swiss knife, seemed really hard, but it seemed pretty straightforward. And they got chocolates, and it was good. This is my really good episode.
Jared, I forgot about the knife one. I think I had it in my notes here, but I didn't even remember. Did any teams even do that? I don't remember. Jared, do you remember the knife challenge at all?
Yeah, I think it was a pretty even split between the two. I think the knife one was one of those detours that had limited stations, if I remember it correctly. And I think the models actually walked right past the saw they were looking for, and they walked right past it, which probably contributed to them losing the leg. Yeah, I think overall it was a good leg. It's never great to kind of have an obvious boot of a team that's just miles behind and finishing hours later. But I think this episode, like Rossi was saying, it just had the added bonus of that bunch sprint to the finish, which really kind of made up for that one team being behind. The fact that any of like 7-8 teams could have come away with the win was really interesting.
Now, let's talk a bit about the teams working together. I know when we were covering the Amazing Race Canada last year, there was a lot of teams working together on some of these challenges, and I think I'm for it in the right episodes. And this episode, maybe it was coming off the previous one where so many people struggled with that purse thing in the dark and they were kind of nervous about it. But how do you guys feel about the teams working together, particularly here in the UN Flag Challenge? Rossi? Rossi?
Yes, here I am.
Oh, there you are. Rossi, did you hear the question?
Yes.
All right.
It wasn't bad at first, but then every team, there were so many teams that came within the time that the first teams were there. Like Sherry and Cole and got there while Tyler and Corey were still there. So it kind of just kept, everyone was together, and all of a sudden the models come and everyone's leaving because they figure it out. So it was kind of, I don't know, I wasn't a fan of how everyone worked together. It seemed too, I don't know. It was just weird. I can't really explain it, but it was weird.
Jared, do you like seeing teams work together this much?
No, I kind of only let it slide when it's like an intersection or they're forced to work together. Yeah, I'm not a fan of kind of teams teaming up. It is nice to kind of see the relationships between people and that there's that added, I suppose, strategic element of the game of making friends and helping each other out. But yeah, when it comes at the detriment of just one team, it's not really that interesting to watch.
Well, the models, of course, were the losers on this one, and I don't know. Let's discuss this a little bit. The models as a team, we only had 4 episodes to really base it on, but even if the teams had not worked together, do you think the models even had a chance at this race, Rossi?
I feel like they did. They weren't terrible. I mean, they just had one pretty rough episode. I mean, they weren't the best racers. They weren't, but they had their strengths and they knew kind of what worked well for them. So I think they weren't been terrible. They probably wouldn't have gone too far, maybe like eliminated around where we are now at the most kind of, but they weren't terrible. I thought there were other worse teams.
Well, really, if we're looking at the standings in this episode, I think probably Sherry and Cole and Scott and Blair are the ones that struggled a little bit more than they did. So I don't know if this is the one that they would have gone out on, but I don't see them as the type of team who is ever going to win this race. So I don't know how much it bothered me that they were the ones that were kind of singled out. I did get a bit of a laugh out of I can't remember who was doing this challenge, but she was getting really upset and saying, like, I help everyone and now nobody wants to help me. And I'm thinking, like, well, you helped one person last week. I don't know if I saw a lot of the models, let's make sure we help every team on here. But of course, in that situation, anybody's going to be upset. Jared, do you think that the models had any chance of winning this? And I guess final thoughts on the models.
I don't think I ever kind of saw them as contenders to take out the whole thing, but they did have kind of the vibe of maybe being a team that kind of slips through to around sort of the final 5-4 mark. As a team, I thought they were pretty boring. They were one of sort of the teams, the volcano mud bath teams that you can't tell apart from each other once they've done that challenge. The models definitely kind of fit into that group. And I don't think that they were going to sort of bring a lot of entertainment to the show if they stuck around. They probably would have been one of those teams that you just sort of saw every now and then, and that was about it.
So that's the end of the models and the end of Switzerland, or I think they actually finished in France here, but France is where the next leg is. So this is now episode, what is that, 5, I believe? 5? Yep. So France, episode 5, and this is my vote for the best location of the season. And I think we've had great locations in The Amazing Race before, but I don't know if location has ever been an entire episode. I think some of the best locations, like, okay, we're here at this one great spot, or we're here for half the episode. And the entire episode, just up in the mountains, it was absolutely incredible to look at. Even if I'm kind of wondering if this episode would have been as good without location, in my opinion. But let's hear what you guys think about episode 5 for France. And just as a quick reminder, this episode had everything. It had them climbing up in the mountains. It had them paragliding. It had them carrying dynamite and setting off avalanches. And to make it all better, they delivered baguettes to mountaineers, which that has to be the best part right there. So episode 5, France. Rossi, did you like the location as much as I did?
I thought it was a really unique place, in kind of a precarious location, but I thought it was very interesting to see, especially because most of the episode was up in those high mountains and things. I can't even... Where was the pit stop? I'm trying to remember that now.
Let me see if I could find it right here.
I can't picture it, so...
There was it says near the statue of Michel Gabriel Picard. Whoever he is. It's a statue in the middle of a town.
Oh, they went back. Okay. I'm trying to picture it. Okay. No, I thought it was really an interesting place to have a race. Like, most teams were precariously navigating things, and it seemed very unsafe and unexpected, so I thought it was a good change of pace for the show. And the challenges were fine, especially at the end. The roadblock was good to watch, and
the paragliding one.
Yeah, and how most teams couldn't run.
Yeah, there were some good wipeouts there in the snow, and I can't believe I forgot this. They had to find a Yeti waving the French flag. Like that. This needs to go back to season 25 with all the puffins and the animals. Amazing Race is bringing back giant Yeti costumes. This is fantastic. Jared, what did you think of France?
I'd like to clarify.
Go
They
ahead.
did not have to find. It was literally probably about 20 meters down from where they started running.
Yeah, just as if anybody's going to miss, there's a giant Yeti waving a French flag. Jared, what did you think of France as a leg?
I thought it was a good leg. I think it was a leg where they kind of really upped the challenges in terms of scale, which I think was a good thing given that the location, I loved it, but just the fact that it was so confined kind of in a way zapped the suspense out of kind of the in-between scenes, especially because so at the start of the scene they were looking for sort of these cars with specific number plates, and they had personalized drivers for like the whole leg. So it didn't really feel like in those kind of transition scenes that any team could kind of leap ahead of one of the others. So the fact that they really kind of pumped up the challenges was definitely a smart move. Lots of great moments. Particularly, my favorite of the entire episode was during the detour when Erin and Jocelyn are confused over this whole delivering lunch, and is a baguette lunch or is that just kind of a snack? And then they go into kind of this, I suppose, like little cabin on the mountaintop, and they're going through some poor like workers like lunch and going through these plastic bags and being like, is this it? It's not marked, but we might just take it type thing. Somebody nearly lost their lunch over the challenge, so they wouldn't have been impressed. But yeah, great location, good challenges. Overall, a really impressive leg.
I don't have that many memories of Aaron and Jocelyn throughout the race except for this episode, which I actually had to make a note in this episode because it just seemed like everything they did went wrong. My note basically said that Aaron and Jocelyn are exceptionally bad at everything on the race. And I think that's really what it came down to on this one, is that they couldn't get anything right in this episode. And that's no judgment against them as a team. I think it was just this one leg that nothing went right for them. So final thoughts on Aaron and Jocelyn. Rossi.
They were the strongest female team, I would say. There's only two. No, there were three.
I was thinking for a second there, like, compared to Brittany and Jessica?
Yeah, I mean, them and the flight mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were definitely the strongest. I think they placed well in some of the earlier episodes. I can't remember every placing. But they were definitely a strong team. I think it was just a really rough leg that kind of got them. I think I had high hopes for them making it further in this season, so I was a bit sad to see them go. But out of all the teams left, I dislike them the most. So
yeah, I wouldn't even say dislike.
Oh no, second most.
Oh, okay, we got it. We'll just hear it now. Which team do you dislike more?
Zach and Rachel.
Yeah, that's not the one I was thinking of, but okay. Well, I mean, this is one of these seasons where I don't think we're losing these great teams early on, and maybe it's just because I don't know if we have that many great teams so far, but I'm with you guys. I don't really think that they were stars of the season. Jared, were you fans of Aaron and Jocelyn?
Not particularly. I think they had potential to be more interesting if they'd stayed on. I feel like with them kind of making mistakes and getting a bit more screen time, we saw a bit more of their personality and the fact that they were willing to kind of laugh things off and move on. And as racers, I thought they could have done well too. I mean, they made a couple of mistakes on the leg, but really it just sort of came down to that end kind of paragliding or parasailing or whatever it's called that really kind of stuffed them up. And that could have gone either way for any of kind of the three teams who were stuck there at the end.
So overall, France, this is, as I said, this is definitely my favorite location, maybe one of my favorite locations of all time. And I said at the beginning as we were covering this, this was only 2 episodes ago, but as far as when it aired, we're looking at almost a month because of the 3 weeks that The Amazing Race was off or whatever. But I actually think that even outside location, this was a really good episode. I loved all the challenges. I loved the I don't know, it wasn't rappelling, the crawling across the line or whatever, the dynamite stuff. Like, I thought it was all good. Even the tent challenge was interesting. That's kind of your standard, okay, we'll just watch people build something. The Swiss Army knife challenge, and even that one provided some entertainment. So this one's definitely my vote for the best episode of the season. Let's talk about the next one, which is the most recent episode now. So they travel from France to Armenia, and I'm pretty sure this is the first time they've gone to Armenia. Do either of you remember if we've been here before?
I don't think we had, because I think they did kind of make a sort of a bit of a deal about it's the first time we've been here. So I think it was kind of a first off stop to Armenia.
And again, this is a great location. I think that one thing this season has going for it is all these locations they're going to they're new. I think we might have been to Colombia before, but it just feels like everything we're seeing is new. And instead of focusing so much on, this is a challenge that fits in with the location we're doing, which is what I think a lot of the last few seasons were. It's more along the lines of, let's just do any type of random challenge and see a bit of the location, and outside of maybe the carpet one. But just as a reminder, episode of Armenia, that's episode 6. Again, hashtag Bloaty came back, and we had the carpet weaving, which I can't even fathom how long that takes and how they even do this, how they design it, how they make sure that they don't make any mistakes. Do either of you remember how long they said it takes? Something like 9 months to make one of these rugs? Something along those lines?
It was definitely like a long time.
Yeah, let's go with it. Like 9 months or something. And there were probably half a dozen people working on these at any given time. So they
imagine it's 1 week and we're saying 9 months.
Yeah, this is going to be like the 1,000-year-old egg or whatever.
And It only takes 2 days to make it.
Yeah, on Amazon, they're selling these as 2-day Armenian carpets. But we'll just say 9 months. It sounds better. And then there was also the bread making challenge, which I like the bread making challenge, even if it was just sort of like slapping bread against the wall. The lady that was judging them, I don't know if she judged all the teams or if it was just Brody and Kurt, but this lady is one of the stars of the season. This is Handsome, Handsome Hagen, the pilot or whatever from a few seasons ago. This lady was hilarious. The way that she almost started yelling at Brody and Kurt at one point. She's like, no, no, no! And then she was just laughing hysterically at them. It was she made this challenge for me. Again, it's a really cool location to see them doing this and frying bread inside of a pit, I guess, on the stone wall. And then after that, we have... This is what I was talking about. Just a random challenge, but let's show off the location. Armenia must be known for roadside oil changes, or it's known for Mount Ararat in the background. I don't know which one they decided on here, but we had oil changes in front of Mount Ararat, which I thought the challenge was going to be boring. I thought, okay, well, they just want to show off Mount Ararat here. But I thought this challenge was great, mostly because of Sherry. So overall, let's give our opinions on Armenia's LA. Grossi?
I really liked the location on this one. I thought there were some quite diverse challenges and some things that people struggled on that were kind of simple. I thought trying to find that clue in the opera theater was so obvious to me, but so many teams didn't realize. And the difference between the detours was quite interesting. While they didn't require the same set of skills, but like it was interesting to see the change. It wasn't a standard physically hard and you'll get it done, or thinking and it'll take a longer time kind of deal. But it was two very different challenges, and I thought they worked well together.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the theater searching challenge, which I was really skeptical about. But I mean, I think, and I have to have this queued up here. Give me a second. I think any challenge where you hear this playing in the background, it's going to make it more entertaining. Like, seriously, I had no idea what that music was, or that it was Armenian or anything before that, but like, that music needs to be played in every boring challenge, because this was just people searching a theater, but that music made it entertaining. This is like the pirate opera thing or whatever they had last season, in season 27. I think that was in Shanghai or something like that. But yeah, the theater searching one was really good too. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. So, Jared, overall, Armenia?
Yeah, I thought it was a great leg. Really different from the other ones. Just trying to think of... Initially, like with the theater challenge, which was great, I thought that it was potentially going to be a switchback. Because they had that one challenge where, I don't know what season it was, where they were kind of searching through a theater for like miniature violins or guitars in cases like under the seats or whatever. So I thought that maybe sort of that was going to come back, but I did like the whole that it was just the guy vacuuming, which, I mean, nobody's paying attention to the cleaners, so they should be.
Wasn't
yeah, and everything else.
I was going to say, wasn't he the most obvious thing in that challenge? Like, you just have this random guy vacuuming all the seats, and he's the only thing they didn't check for. I didn't get that.
Yeah, surely you're thinking, oh, maybe they could have postponed the cleaning of this till like after they'd shot this show. Like, is it he can only work these certain hours, and he's working no matter what.
Yeah.
And the fact they were looking in the weirdest places possible, like under the stage, like under the floorboards. They're like going up to these people trying to dance on stage and physically making them stop to kind of check them like all over if they've got like a clue or anything.
In the instruments.
Yeah, it was just, and I think like they even made their way kind of into all these like backstage areas, and somebody was like in the sound room upstairs. And I feel like when they made this challenge, they had no idea that it was going to be, obviously they predicted that it would be difficult for some teams, but I think the lengths that kind of teams went to trying to find this clue probably even shocked production. And the rest of the episode was good too. I think they got kind of lucky with the roadblock, because having only two teams attempt that at the same time, like that could have backfired really badly and made it a really kind of obvious finish with just the last team getting onto that, coming in last place. But the fact that you had Sherry struggling throughout the whole thing, and kind of the question of other teams: do they help her? Do they not help her? Especially with the express pass on the line, worked out really well for them.
Yeah, a little bit about the theater challenge here and that guy. When I saw all the teams there, I got annoyed when I realized, okay, well, it's the guy with the vacuum, because I was thinking the first person that actually grabs the clue from this vacuum guy, there are, a dozen other people in there. Surely one of them is going to see this vacuuming guy handing a clue, and nobody was looking. And as long as the episode went, I think maybe one team actually caught on and said, oh, I think they just got it from the vacuum guy. But it was great to see them prying the floorboards up. Like, I just want to see how far this challenge could have gone. Like, if they just started ripping the carpet up in this theater, or taking a knife and searching inside the seats, like how much the producers would have let them get away with. But yeah, the oil change one, I want to talk a little bit more about that, because we did say earlier on with the teams working together that sometimes it is strategic, and I think that's what really happened with Tyler. Tyler was the one doing this roadblock, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, well, that was what happened with Tyler. So at the end, we only have the 3 teams left, and Scott's doing it, and Sherry's doing it, and Tyler's waiting, and he even says, only 2 can go at a time, which that did save this for me, because it brought some drama. It wasn't just, well, everybody, whoever's the first one to finish. And the fact that he said, okay, well, I want Scott to do this because Sherry's struggling, and that's my only, chance at surviving this. But then it was kind of strange to see that as soon as Scott finished, he went over and helped Sherry through it. So let's talk a little bit about the teams here as we're kind of coming to the end of this episode. But also something that I think that we've been missing on the season. I know we brought it up in our first episode this season, our only episode this season other than this. But the fact that these are social media stars and they are more conscious of how they're going to appear on camera, I think has been the one issue of the season. I thought I'd be really annoyed with the fact that we do have, these social media stars and they're all going to be playing the cameras. I don't know if they've been playing to the cameras, but I think that they've been very conscious of not melting down on the cameras, minus maybe Dana. And this episode was the one where I enjoyed most, specifically because of Sherry and Cole, and how we saw Sherry completely losing it. Just, again, another unintentionally funny moment where she's just turning the wrench the wrong way, and she's grunting and screaming like, oh, I can't get it. And they put the graphic on screen, tighten, loosen, as she's pulling it the wrong way the whole time. But for me, this was the one moment where we finally got to see a team as themselves, and it wasn't playing up to the cameras. So any feelings on how we're seeing the teams at this point? Are they playing too much to the cameras? Are we not seeing enough realism with meltdowns and arguments and everything, Rossi?
I didn't really factor any of that into my watching. I kind of forgot that they were social media. It wasn't really until Blair mentioned, it was recently, I think it was this episode, that she's like, to see him view me as an equal is a lot because I never went to school and stuff. And she's like, oh, I'm going to show my viewers how to make a DIY carpet for their house. But I don't know. I don't think they're managing how they're viewed or trying to control that. But I do definitely think that it's a tamer season. We haven't had really many blow-ups, which is kind of shocking because that's how I'd react. So
I think that's how anybody would react who's not used to being on camera and not considering, I need to play up because I don't want to look bad and lose viewers or lose followers or anything. Jared, do you think that's factoring into how we're seeing the teams and why we're not getting as much drama?
I think it could be, but then I suppose on the flip side, I don't know kind of a lot of these teams and what they're up to on social media, but I suppose in a way kind of all publicity is good publicity. And the fact that some of them were sort of a bit more emotive and breaking down and I suppose not fighting like terribly, but if there's a bit more kind of emotion between the teams, I think that's even potential to pick up more followers. It's interesting that it just you do forget that these are kind of these social media stars until you'll have a scene where fans are sort of coming up to them or something, or like the Australian ads are like constantly promoting that they're social media kind of stars and how will they do when they go offline. and all this stupid stuff that's over the top. And it's only like when you see something like that you sort of click back and are like, oh yeah, this isn't kind of a normal season, because it still has that feeling until you're kind of brought back to the fact and notified of it. So I think that's kind of working for the race in a way, that it's not too over the top, and it's not like the blind dating twist that is kind of shoved down your throat every 2 seconds. The fact that they kind of just let it breathe is really sort of paying favors and working well.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you that I'm not noticing the social media thing as much anymore. And I think part of that is that we didn't have, at least in the last few episodes, this reminder where at the beginning of every episode somebody's stopping somebody for an autograph or a picture. At least we didn't see it in the most recent episode. That helps a little bit. But overall, I think I'm enjoying these teams. I just would enjoy them a lot more if we saw what we saw with Sherry and Cole this week, or Dana. Dana's a really good one, because I think she is one who's being a lot more conscious of how she's presenting herself after the first few episodes where she was just losing it all the time, and I love that. And we didn't even hear from them in this episode, which was kind of disappointing. But at the same time, when they checked in, they were, 4th place or something like that? You could still see the disappointment. He just said something like, oh, we'll take it, and she's just sort of rolling her eyes. So it's like they're intentionally not saying anything because they don't want to be viewed poorly. This is the one moment I think I have watched more than anything else this season. I rewound and watched these Cole moments, and I don't even know if anybody else picked up on this, but I just thought it was hilarious when Sherry was losing it, and she's talking about Cole's being so supportive, he's being so sweet, and the way Cole responded to her, this was authentic. It was like a guy who doesn't know how to deal with his crying mom, but he's trying to just be nice about it, but it is so awkward. When she comes up to him and she's crying, and I wrote down the quote here. He goes, "But Mom, we knew this," and he just awkwardly pauses, and then you see him look out of the corner of his eye, see Blair come up to give her a hug, and he's like, "All right, I'm stepping aside. I'm gonna let the woman deal with this." Like, it's just such an awkward guy who doesn't know how to deal with his crying mom. It's like, can we get a girl in here who knows how to give a hug? I don't know how to deal with this. And then we had the exact same thing when they were in the cab afterwards, and she's still crying, and I think a person who's maybe a little bit more comfortable with that, a little bit more comfortable with, the emotions of their parent or their spouse or whoever it would be saying like, "Oh, it's all right, you did okay." And instead he was like overblowing it, like almost ignoring the fact she's crying. He's like, "Hey, you did really good." And then he's like, "Wow, we killed that." Like, he's just overselling it so much. I love seeing Cole feeling really awkward, and that's what I want to see more of. We'll talk about them first before we go through the other teams. We'll go in backwards order of what we normally do here, quickly covering all the teams. So am I the only one who's loving Sherry and Cole now that we're seeing authentic and not playing up for the cameras? Jared, I'll let you go first.
No, I really am starting to like them too. I think there was a point early on the season where you thought that Cole kind of really could have overshadowed Sherry, and she'd really sort of become a secondary character, but I think she's really kind of held her own in this episode, and it is nice to see their supportive relationship, even if at times it's awkward, because you had kind of the reverse situation in the France leg where Cole's like terrified of heights, and Sherry's she's talking him through it and getting him through it, probably doing a better job than he did of supporting her at the car challenge. But it is nice to kind of see elements of that genuine relationship kind of coming through.
Rossi, Sherry, and Cole.
Love them from the moment we saw them.
Yes. Nothing else to add, just love them.
They're single-handedly the best team this season. The first episode when they're at home and they're crying, because they're like, "I've never been away from home," and then they're all, they had me then. Like, they still have me. I just hope that they survive.
They had you at "I've never been away from home." They're definitely my favorite too. Like, I think if I were to pick a favorite racer, I'd still pick Dana, just because she is so mean in such an entertaining way. I love it. But overall, Sherry and Cole are hands down my favorite team right now. Let's move up. A team who's been front runner and all of a sudden is just taking a big hit. Tyler and Corey. Jared.
I like them. I'm kind of over them doing well, so it was nice to see them fall down the pack a bit towards the back. I think the rivalry sort of between them and Kurt and Brody is an interesting storyline, and hopefully kind of that continues to be a thing moving forward. I think they're just the most, I suppose Tyler's the most marketable person, so they tend to kind of get a lot of screen time that probably could be shared a bit better over the other teams, but I suppose it's understandable given the theme.
Rossi?
Yeah, similar to Jared, I kind of like seeing them not at the front of the pack. Because it was just kind of like them and the other guys. I forget their name.
The Brody and Kurt?
Yeah, they kind of just always did well, and you're like, oh, they're just going to do well. So it was nice to see them fall down. Even if like they fell down a few, they didn't have to go to second last or whatever. But it was nice to see them the change up here, because we kind of had it those two up front, and then usually Dana and Matt up front as well. But the order was really changed up this episode, and I thought that was interesting to see.
I hadn't really considered what you guys are saying about, them being a better team at the bottom, but looking at it now, I mean, we struggled to talk about Marty and Hagen, Darius and Cameron, Brittany and Jessica, Aaron and Jocelyn up until this point. And I think this is something that season 27 had a bit of an issue with Justin and Diana being such focal points of the season, which really worked better when they were at the bottom, because I think throughout the race you do want to see those teams who are going home, same as on Survivor. If somebody's going home, you want a story from them, you want to know something about them, and there is more drama at the back. And I think there is something to what you were saying, Jared, that Tyler being the biggest star on the season, they're showing him maybe more than they would have otherwise. But I would like to see every team mix it up a little bit and have everybody like Brody and Kurt. It would be nice to see them struggle a little bit. I mean, they've always finished at least in the top half. Well, looking at it right now, they've only in the first leg did they not finish in the top two positions. So I'm in agreement with you guys. Scott and Blair, they're kind of floating around there as usual. They've survived longer than I thought they would. I don't remember my predictions, but I think from episode to episode I've always kind of expected them to go next. So feelings on Scott and Blair. Jared?
I think they're my favourite team left at the moment. Even without the Bloaty storyline, I think they hold their own. It's an interesting dynamic between the two. I would love to see Blair and Haley reborn, but with this Blair partnering with Haley. I just think they're a great team. There's potential for drama between them. Blair has an annoying voice, but it's great to listen to at the same time. I just think that they're definitely one of the star teams of the season.
Can you imagine if this was 2 seasons ago, we could have had hashtag Blayley? Like, why are we missing out on this? We need Tyler to come up with hashtags for everybody. How come after this week with Scott helping Sherry, we didn't have hashtag Scary? Like, let's get hashtags for all these different pairs. Rossi, I'm betting you're a fan of Scott and Blair. Are you going to prove me right or prove me wrong here? Rossi says, they are incredible, love them, Blair is amazing. Some teams are calling them Blair and Daddy, I'm sold. I don't know why you typed that instead of speaking it, but we'll take that as your comment. Rossi's sold. Let's move on and hope that Rossi's mic is still working. We're up to the top 4 teams, and my favorite racer, the choreographers, Dana and Matt. Jared, we didn't see much of them in this episode, but the previous ones, they're again one of those teams who's always sort of at the top. Maybe not as many arguments we used to have, but are you liking Dana and Matt?
I am. I'd have to agree that they kind of have been getting on a little bit better, which is kind of frustrating. But I think Dana is like a ticking time bomb, and you give them a challenge where they struggle at, and Matt will try to offer her some advice, and she'll go off at him. So I'm looking forward to when that happens again. I hope she continues to step on people's wares and items for sale and piss off random people in the streets and stall owners in every country that she goes to.
Yeah, 100% agree. She is a ticking time bomb, and that's what I was saying when they checked in at the pit stop. You could see just the look on her face. Like, there was probably stuff going on this episode she just didn't want to explode again on camera, but I want her to explode on camera. I want angry Dana again. Rossi, I see that you're typing right now. I don't know if your mic is working or not, or if you're just taking a vow of silence, But what are your feelings on Dana and Matt? Getting better. I'm actually liking them more when they get along, which is pretty strange. I do hope she explodes soon. Got entertainment. And he's typing again. Good entertainment. Can we just do every episode Rossi messages his feelings? We'll do everything like got entertainment. Good entertainment. Okay. So I don't know why Rossi enjoys them more when they get along, because we don't really see them when they get along, but we'll take your opinion. This episode's moving at lightning speed now that Rossi's typing out his answers. You can just get ready on Zach and Rachel, Rossi, as I go to Jared. I still don't know why you do it. She annoys me a bit. I don't know. Is this Dana you're talking about? Yes. He says it is Dana. What is going on here? Rossi, do you want to tell us why you're typing and not speaking? Or are you not cluing us in on this mysterious communication method you're using? And now he's silent. All right. Let's move on here. This is the most bizarre episode of The Amazing Race Oz we've ever done. Get your opinions ready on Zach and Rachel, Rossi. I'll be throwing to you in a minute. Zach and Rachel, we already heard he said that they were his least favorite team. Jared, you said they were one of your favorite teams. So you want to give us a little bit of your opinion on Zach and Rachel? Magic?
I feel like I don't have a strong opinion on them, but they're one of my random favorite teams, and I can't pinpoint why. Maybe it's the fact that I think that I could get along with them in real life. I don't know, but they get some brownie points for that, but they're just kind of all over the place, and maybe that's what I like about it, is that you just don't know what you're going to get, and they make constant stupid mistakes. But somehow they manage to stick around. They could be, it takes a special team to suck. I think they have that potential. So maybe that's it. Maybe I'm getting that vibe from them and they can continue that on. But I mean, like, they were near the front in like the first episode, and then they fell back, and then the kind of middle of the pack, and now they've moved up back to third again, and you just don't know what you're going to get from them. I think they're just nice people, and it's not that annoying type of nice in that Simeon Opie type of nice kind of way.
I like Simeon Opie. Whoever doesn't know what we're talking about, Amazing Race Canada, coming soon. Go back and watch season 3. I will say this. Simeon Opie, I don't know what it is. They're kind of that team like what you're describing, Zach and Rachel. And for all those who haven't seen the Amazing Race Canada, I'm not going to say we apologize. I'm going to say go watch it. It blows this away. But my wife and I are expecting a baby in the next 3 weeks or so, and we have 2 giraffes that we bought for our baby, and I decided to name them Simi and Opie, and I'm going to hopefully name all of the animals after Amazing Race teams, but we have a Simi and Opie here. Rossi, you're typing right now. I don't know if you're ready on your comments on Zach and Rachel, but if you are, type away. If not, I'll keep talking, and I'll say Zach and Rachel, I kind of agree with you, Jared. I don't know why I like them, but I do. I think that obviously the show's concept this year was that they wanted to bring in new viewers by using these social media stars, people who maybe aren't even watching The Amazing Race. But the racers this season are probably hoping The Amazing Race will get people interested in what they do. I can't honestly say that I'm going to be that interested in following, all of these social media stars at the end of the season, but Zach, his videos, from what I've seen, I want to follow this guy post-season. So Rossi, do you have any opinions on Zach and Rachel, or are we just going with what you said earlier, that they're your least favorite team? You're back!
On my least.
Wait. Yeah. Don't answer that question. Why were you typing for about 5 minutes there?
I can.
Rossi does things just because
my typing skills.
Just because he feels like it, he does it. All right, Zach and Rachel, why don't you speak to us now?
They're my least favorite because they're the most whiny. They're not that fun to watch. They don't really do anything. And every episode, he's the social media person, and I'm just a regular person. And it's like, I'm so sick of that. Like, get some new story.
And you're going to ignore my message now. I was going to try to finish this episode by not talking too.
You're the host. You need.
Yeah, I guess that's true. All right, now we're going to get to. I'll reserve my opinion toward the end of this here, but Jared, Bernie and Ashley. I don't know how to introduce them. They are Bernie, they are Ashley. They are always near the top. Jared, Bernie and Ashley.
I think I have less of an opinion on them than Zach and Rachel. I just feel like they're just there and you don't realize, and you're like, who are these people? Where did they come from? Are they social media stars? I don't know, because I don't know anything about them. Yeah, I'm just not invested in them as a team. I don't think that's going to change. I just feel like they're fairly bland and uninteresting. Bernie sometimes says funny things that I can't recall, so they might not be that funny. But yeah, I think that's about it on them.
That's the best explanation I've ever heard of Bernie and Ashley. Bernie sometimes says funny things that I can't recall. I also want to say, I'll just spoil it now. I completely agree with you, Jared. I forget they're on this race. They are my... I don't do this intentionally. I can remember them when we're not on air. What is the name of the team I couldn't remember last year? The winners?
Kelsey and Joey.
Kelsey and Joey. Kristen's going to hate me for this. I forgot Kelsey and Joey just when comparing teams to Kelsey and Joey. They are my Kelsey and Joey this year. If they just disappeared and weren't even in the next episode, I would probably forget that they were supposed to be there. I don't know what it is. Rossi, do you have any opinions on Bernie and Ashley, a.k.a. Kelsey and what's the other name from season 27?
Yeah, they're definitely better than... no, Kelsey and Joey are amazing, so you're wrong. I don't know. Anyway, you're just wrong. Kelsey and Joey are amazing. But yeah, these people are not on the race. Honestly, I think they're just traveling around the world. That happened coincidentally. The cameramen keep following them. Like, I genuinely don't think that they're racing because they don't have to do much. They just have to keep going, and they happen to be at the same places that all the other teams are at. So I guess they're on the race. Yeah, they don't do anything.
The most memorable thing they did was dig some snow for a tent.
Yeah.
So that's saying something about them.
Let's be honest here. I mean, sometimes TV shows will recast a character and they pretend like, okay, well, this is the same character as if the audience isn't supposed to notice. I wonder if they brought in a new Bernie and Ashley next week, if I would notice that they had recast them as different people just with the same names. Bring in the
stunt doubles.
Yeah, they brought in the Bernie and Ashley stunt doubles, and they looked completely different, but they had the same names. If I would even notice they weren't there, I don't know. I also want to say their team, I guess, the dating gamers, the way that they're promoted on the show, I always love it when Amazing Race puts like the profession or something to do with the team after dating, because I wonder, like, dating gamers, are they gamers who are dating, or are they both dating gamers? Kind of always reminds me of season 4 with the dating virgins. Are they dating virgins, or are they virgins who are dating? I don't know. Yeah, not loving Bernie and Ashley. If they left next week, I don't know if we would notice. If they recast them, that's a project for the Amazing Race. 1 year, I want you to take the invisible team and recast them and just see how many people don't notice. Let's move on to the perpetual number 1 or number 2 team, Brody and Kurt, otherwise known as Bert or Curdy, I don't know. The other love couple on the show, one half of Brody. Jared, what are your feelings on Brody and Kurt?
I'm growing to like them. I think similar to Tyler and Corey, like, it's about time for them to slip down the pack a bit, and that will probably make them more interesting. I think while Scott and Blair kind of stand on their own without the Brody storyline, I don't think Kurt and Brody would be half as interesting if that storyline wasn't in place. I think Brody being potentially romantically linked to Blair is the only thing that's keeping sort of my interest in that team.
Rossi?
Yeah, they're doing good. That's about all I know about them. They're physical.
I mean, they haven't really had to do physical challenges. I think that sometimes, fans do get upset, oh, it's a very fit male team. I mean, they were. I don't know if they even did the weaving carpets or they did the bread one. I mean, I don't know if their strength or them being athletes helped in that, but I don't know. There's something about them where it's almost too predictable. Same as Tyler and Corey. Just when you have the same two teams at the top all the time, it just gets a bit predictable. But I also agree with Jared. I think that they're growing me on me. This one episode, the last one, the Armenia leg, I just thought they were having a lot of fun and they were joking around. And sometimes, I do want to see that stressed out. I think for the most part, I want to see teams stressed out a little bit. But occasionally it works more if the teams are just having a blast and don't really care, what happens. And I think they sold me a little bit more this week. But I also agree that without Brody, I don't know if Brody and Kurt really have a storyline this season. So
who do you guys prefer? Not Brody. The brother, the Kurt and Brody, or the douche bros from last season?
Tanner and Josh. Definitely Brody and Kurt. I think Tanner and Josh probably provided more entertainment, but I don't know if they were they're not the type of team that I would want to hang out with. Whereas I think Brody and Kurt would be fun guys. They'd be entertaining to be around. I don't know, Jared. What do you think?
Oh, that is a tough question. Congratulations, I'm officially stumped. Kurt and Brody, because they interacted with that bread-making lady.
Yes.
And I don't know if Tanner and Josh would have done that as much. So, that's the decision maker.
But Tanner and Josh were gentlemen. Let's be honest about that. They were real gentlemen. That's the one thing we know about them. If we were to throw, again, for those who have not seen The Amazing Race Canada, no apologies, go out and watch it. If we throw Gino and Jesse in there, so who is the best douche bro team?
Gino and Jesse, hands down.
Yes. Rossi?
No contest.
Same.
Yeah, there we go. That is another endorsement. Go watch The Amazing Race Canada, coming soon for Season 4. Go back and watch the first 3 seasons.
But do not name any stuffed giraffes, Simi and Opie, please. Don't
No! All of my stuffed animals for our upcoming baby are going to be named after Amazing Race teams.
Do you have a chameleon in there? Because you can name it Kelsey.
Yeah. I think there is some type of slug or something. I don't know, a snail, something that slithers, a snake. I don't know.
I'm just imagining these completely inept giraffes, and all that they do in playtime is just say, "I can't play. Leave me alone."
Can these giraffes swim?
I can't interact with children. Yeah, we'll do a photo shoot with our baby and all of the Amazing Race animals with, we'll come up with characters for them. You're giving me good ideas now. I'm going to go in the baby's room, which is almost set up now, and I'm going to name them all. We've got Simi and Opie. I have one set aside for Brian and Cynthia already, but I still have to clear it with my wife. But did you say to Brian and Cynthia?
Yes,
No!
loud and proud.
No, Brian and Cynthia, moment of the week. All right, all these Amazing Race Canada references. I really hope it's getting people interested in watching the Amazing Race Canada, because we're going to be more interested in covering that one. But overall, let's just quickly, since we're at the mid-season point here, give our opinions. How is this season holding up halfway through compared to, I guess, the last couple seasons, but also just in general? Jared, we'll go to you first.
I think it's doing well. I think the fact that the social media thing is kind of fading to the background is a real positive. I feel like the legs have been really different, and even when there's been kind of an obvious team going home, I think that other elements of the leg have kind of made up for that and detracted from that being a low point. And I think it has a lot of momentum moving forward. We've got this whole continue racing leg, and the express pass has just come into sort of the game, so I think there's plenty of twists and turns ahead for it to sort of keep up a good pacing.
Rossi?
I think it's going well so far. I'm pleased with how everything's going. The twist isn't overbearing. I would like a bit more mix-up with the teams, not in terms of all of a sudden Blair racing with Kurt or something like that, but just I want to see are they brothers? I don't even know. They're friends.
Which
what
ones?
Is the
Brody and Kurt?
Yeah, what is their relation?
Teammates.
Okay. Were there brothers on this season?
No, I don't think so. No.
Darius and Cameron.
Ah, that's right. See, we
Well,
already forgot they were there.
But if the two jocks kind of go down like Tyler and Corey do, then it'll be interesting to see. And hopefully teams like Scott and Blair and Sherry and Cole kind of can step up and change up the order a bit. Because I think the order is getting a bit stale, but everything else has been pretty good.
Yeah, I think for me it's interesting because I remember coming off of season 27 not really loving the teams, and I have the same opinion about this one. I think I'm not loving the teams, but it's for a different reason. Season 27, I feel like there was too much focus put on Justin and Diana, Tanner and Josh, that we really didn't get to know a lot of the other teams. I think no matter what the season is, the closer you get to the end, when you only have a few teams left, you will see more of them. That's how we got a lot of Tiffany and Kristen near the end. We got a lot of Logan and Chris, and I think that improved. But it wasn't as positive of an experience. And I think this is almost the polar opposite, where there was a lot of negativity last year, and this year it's just super positive, but that's not necessarily always a good thing. So in terms of the teams, I think that they're still struggling to develop a lot of them, but at the same time, I think the least interesting teams have been the ones to go, whereas season 27, some of the more interesting teams, or potentially more interesting teams, went early, like Cindy and Rick and the TMZ. They could have provided a lot more entertainment. But overall, I think the race itself is holding up much better this year than a lot of the recent seasons. And I wouldn't be surprised if we really do get a lot out of these teams in the second half of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if this is maybe even a top 10 season for me, because I think I'm enjoying it more every single week. So we're just moving on now to, if we do have it, as we're so well prepared here, the prediction, our boot lists. Jared, were you able to find that as we recorded this?
I was, and I have done a quick tally that could very well be wrong. But starting from the bottom, on a grand total of 0 points, considering his Marty and Hagen prediction, is Noah.
Just out of curiosity, before you move on, who did Noah predict would be gone in the episodes we've seen here? Who were his first 5 boots or whatever?
First boot, he predicted Aaron and Jocelyn. In 10th place, he put Bernie and Ashley. 9th, Cameron and Darius, so he was close on that one.
Oh.
8th, he put Tyler and Corey, so I mean, that's probably going to be way off by the time we sort of get down to the end of things.
And who's second last in points?
Second last is a tie between myself and Alec on 1 point, which doesn't really count because we knew who was going home when we made that prediction. But I suppose when somebody else didn't make that prediction, it does count.
Look at that. You had a freebie and you're still better than Noah.
Yeah, exactly. In equal second place, with a total of 2 points each, guessing one right on the nose, is Kristen and Colin.
Which ones did we get?
Kristen, I think, got... Let me see. She got Jessica and Brittany in 9th. And you got Aaron and Jocelyn in 8th. And on a grand total of 3 points in first place is Rossi, getting the point for Marty and Hagen, Cameron and Darius spot on, and Jessica and Brittany spot on.
Wait a second. So did Rossi have spoilers for the first 3 episodes? Because you nailed the first 3 episodes.
Well, he might have been like a replacement of Bernie on that team, or just their cameraman following them around. So, I mean, that could have been it.
Rossi, is there a method to your madness? How did you make your predictions this year?
Well, after seeing the fact that the 2 strong guys, Darius and Cameron, didn't do anything, it would be pretty simple. They go next. And Brittany and Jessica weren't long for it, so they would probably be next. And then I think I had Aaron and Jocelyn in second, so there go my prediction.
All right, well, we've established it here. Rossi knows all. Jared, just send us out here with what is Rossi's prediction for who's going to go next.
In 7th place, Rossi is predicting that Bernie and Ashley will become invisible forever.
And if they don't go and they just disappear, then we'll never know. So good job, Rossi. You're in first place. Let's see if it holds up. Who's Rossi's number one?
He has gone for a potential, very likely Kurt and Brody.
Oh. Rossi, we're going to be following you throughout the rest of the season. And if we find that you nail every single one of these, we're going to be calling spoilers. So how are you feeling at this point being on the leaderboard? Are you justified in your opinions on the teams?
I'm always justified in my opinions.
Except for Zach and Rachel, which you apparently think are the worst team. But
yeah, they're just uninteresting.
We do have, how many episodes to go? We are 6 episodes in with 6 episodes to go. So we don't really have that much to talk about, I guess, other than coming up in the next episode, which I'm excited just because they're going to Georgia, which I think that might also be the first time they've gone to Georgia. My family on one side comes from Georgia, so that's exciting for me. Any predictions as to what's going to happen in the second half of the season? So this is completely at random. We'll start with Jared. What's going to happen in the second half of the season? What are you looking forward to?
I think there's going to be a bloaty breakup. Maybe Kurt becomes involved and that turns into a love triangle. And I mean, then that team, that's how Kurt and Brody fall apart and they lose the race. Bernie and Ashley likely will be replaced at some point, like we've already mentioned. And Dana could potentially punch Matt in the face.
Yes!
And I'm looking forward to all those moments.
Rossi, any things you're looking forward to potentially happening as outlandish as it might be in the second half of the season?
I'm really hoping they do another Monaco thing where they dress up for the leg.
Yeah.
And all the teams are running around in ridiculous costumes.
Sweating.
Yeah. I hope we see a kiss in the next episode. I don't care who does it or who's in it. Could be anyone.
It could
be that woman, the bread woman from the challenge, could come back and
there's a good
she'd
one.
Be fine with it.
Maybe we'll have the bread woman making out with the Yeti.
It would be pretty hard to miss the Yeti. So.
Yeah, I just want to see more hashtag combinations here. I already put it out there. I want hashtag scary. I don't know. We'll come up with more. But, yeah, bloaty can't be a standalone thing. But I really want to see Dana explode again. That's my number one thing I want for the rest of the season. And I'm hoping they'll be around long enough to see an explosion. Guaranteed, if they're the last team at any point, we will see some type of explosion. So, or a punch in the face, as Jared's hoping for. We want to see some punches in the face. Even if it's not Dana and Matt. Let's just see random punches in the faces on The Amazing Race. Let's see Rachel punch Ashley in the face. Let's see Cole punch Scott in the face. Let's just see more punching and more hashtag pair-ups. So those are our predictions for the second half of The Amazing Race. And whether or not we're back to recap before the end of the season, we don't know. I guess everything kind of depends on what's going on with Survivor Oz. Right now we're doing lots of Survivor episodes each week, and there's not a lot of time for Amazing Race, but I'm just going to put out there, I think, at least in the last few episodes, I'm probably enjoying Amazing Race more than Survivor for the last 2 weeks. So hopefully we'll find the time to bring you some more episodes, but at the very least we will be back to do an end-of-the-season recap. And it's definitely no knock against the season, but let's just go out here to the great music of famous Armenian composer, what's his name, with that music, Saber Dance, there's the name of it there. Rossi, thank you for joining us. Thank you for texting us throughout half of the episode.
Good to be here, as always.
And Jared, otherwise known as the Australian Tintin, thank you for being on this episode and siding with me on a few points so that Rossi doesn't just get his way.
Thank you. I'm glad we can confuse the listeners with more obscure references.
And Rossi just wants us to know I'm mean, good to be here. So this texting thing's going well. We will be back eventually. In the meantime, listen to our Survivor episodes and hoping to get some more recaps on Rossi may be hosting the Ozlet show this week if we can line up a time. And until next time, Rossi says, and we will speak to you on the plains, says Rossi.
Come on, Mama! The Mom, it's not...
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
You tried your best. Everybody, it wasn't working for nobody. Why are you crying?
I can't get it off.
But Mom, we knew this. You know,